Lupe's painful past, toxic marriage, and powerful comeback. My 600 pounds life. Lupe Donovan, born Lupe Samano, was once a young woman full of dreams. But behind her smile was a story filled with pain, loss, and emotional wounds that would eventually lead her to one of the most challenging journeys ever aired on My 600 Pounds Life. From a young age, Lupe's life was marked by trauma. She experienced sexual abuse as a child, a tragedy that left deep emotional scars. With little support and nowhere to turn, Lupe found comfort in the one thing she could control: food. What began as emotional eating slowly spiraled into addiction. By her early 20s, Lupe was gaining weight rapidly. Her mobility started to decline, and eventually, she became bedridden. For nearly a decade, she lived confined to a bed, relying completely on her husband, Gilbert Donovan, for every basic need: bathing, dressing, and even feeding. Lupe's body had become her prison. She weighed over 642 pounds, and her health was deteriorating fast. Bed sores, infections, and emotional exhaustion became a daily part of her life. Her marriage, while appearing supportive on the surface, had cracks beneath. Gilbert was a caregiver, but also at times her enabler. When Lupe joined My 600 Pounds Life, she was desperate for change, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Under the guidance of Dr. Nozaridan, she began one of the most difficult battles of her life. The first major hurdle was transportation. Just getting Lupe to Houston for the medical evaluation required a special van and medical care. Every movement was painful, but Lupe was determined. She knew this was her only chance to reclaim her life. Once under Dr. Now's care, Lupe had to follow a strict diet and exercise routine to qualify for bariatric surgery. The process was grueling. She struggled with motivation, cravings, and emotional triggers. But slowly, step by step, she began to make progress. Her relationship with Gilbert, however, began to show serious strain. As Lupe grew stronger and more independent, Gilbert seemed threatened. Accusations of cheating and lack of emotional support began to surface. Viewers noticed how Gilbert often seemed dismissive or impatient. The journey to physical healing brought emotional battles to the surface. For Lupe, this was no longer just about losing weight. It was about reclaiming her dignity and finding her voice again. As Lupe Donovan fought through pain and doubt, she proved to herself and the world that she had the strength to change. Under Dr. Nozaridan's close supervision, Lupe managed to lose enough weight to qualify for gastric bypass surgery. The surgery was a turning point. Though not a miracle solution, it gave Lupe the tools she needed to continue her journey. And with every pound lost, she began to gain something far more powerful: hope. But as Lupe's body changed, so did her relationship with Gilbert. For years, he had been her caregiver, her decision-maker. Now, as Lupe grew more independent, the power dynamic between them began to shift. She started speaking up, questioning Gilbert's loyalty, and confronting long-standing issues in their marriage. Lupe accused him of cheating and being emotionally unavailable during her most vulnerable moments. What was once a partnership turned into conflict. Gilbert seemed less supportive, even resentful of Lupe's newfound strength. Eventually, after years of emotional pain, Lupe made one of the hardest decisions of her life. She left him. For Lupe, this wasn't just about leaving a husband. It was about breaking free from a life of dependence, silence, and emotional manipulation. Following their separation, Lupe continued focusing on her health. She shared updates on social media, showing her fans the ongoing ups and downs of her transformation. At one point, she entered a new relationship, but that too faced challenges. Life after the show wasn't easy. Lupe experienced setbacks, including complications from surgery, struggles with motivation, and the emotional burden of maintaining progress. But she never gave up. Through it all, Lupe became a symbol of resilience, not just for those battling obesity, but for anyone who's ever felt trapped in their own body or life. Her story reminds us that change is never simple, and healing is rarely a straight line. Though her journey is ongoing, Lupe showed the world that it's never too late to take control of your life. From being bedridden for over a decade to standing tall on her own terms, Lupe Donovan proved that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Try again tomorrow."